It is my pleasure to introduce the team from Cajon Valley. I have known a few of the team members for quite some time, but over the last 2 years of the CEI initiative, I have just been so impressed and inspired by them time and time again, by the level of dedication from the entire team to their students, their families, their community, and honestly to this initiative. So without further ado, I don't want to take up any of their time. I'll proudly turn it over to the team from Cajon Valley Union School District.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We appreciate it. We're just going to jump right into it. And we have the last presentation of the day. So lots of energy, guys. Here we go. And we have our team. Our problem of practice, we really wanted to focus it. And so we held it, we measured it, we did it at Anza Elementary School specifically to kind of pilot it to see what we wanted to roll out for the future. I'm just going to let our team introduce themselves really quickly. First of all, I'm Mike Servin, Family and Community Engagement Director.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara Otero. I'm the governing board president for Cajon Valley.
And I'm Sandra Candler. I'm the Family and Community Engagement Supervisor.
We have Janice Raymond, our Family and Community Engagement Teacher Facilitator.
Hi.
And
Hi,
Maria.
I'm Maria Kehoe. I'm principal at Anza Elementary School.
Brooke Ponder, the school counselor at Anza Elementary.
Doa Polis, Anza Family and Community Liaison.
Cristina Parodi Araja, Parent Education Specialist at the San Diego County Office of Education.
We have an awesome team in El Cajon. Just quickly about our demographics: 17,000 students, 70% low socioeconomic, 49% of our families are EL. Of those families, we're kind of unique in that half of our families are Arabic that are EL students, and the rest are Spanish and Farsi, Pashto. We serve a huge refugee population from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. So that being said, we can go ahead and jump into the next slide. Tamara can take it away.
So when we talked about our current problem of practice, we really based it on the 2020 CVUSD Parent Gallup Survey. And to give you a little bit of background, the Q12 Engagement Survey and partnership with Gallup began about 4 years ago as a way to measure family, student, and employee engagement across our district. Our board and the superintendent sought to partner with a professional service firm experienced in consulting and using valid and reliable measures of engagement. So given that background, we looked at our Gallup survey and we saw that 39% of our parents are fully engaged and strong ambassadors for their children, but 48% of parents were indifferent, not necessarily negative, but neutral about their child's school. And then 12% of parents were actively disengaged. The one caveat to this is that Gallup indicated that nationally, anything above 20% of parents being fully engaged is above average. So while we were a little discouraged by those numbers, when we look at it in the big world view, we realized that we were right where we needed to be nationally, but not good enough for us.
So then one of the things we struggled with was the word disengaged. And it kind of like punched us in the gut when we talked about disengaged families. And I'll let Christina's the one that brought it up initially. We were like, oh, disengaged families, and talking about it kind of nonchalantly. And I'll let Christina kind of talk about, and I'll follow up with what we did after that.
As an immigrant, English learning Latina parent, if someone told me that I was a mom disengaged from my son's education, well, most likely I could have jumped up to the ceiling. And because of my perception, because of my point of view about this term, and I'm sure that there are parents of other ethnic groups that may share or may feel the same way I do about this term, that I brought up my concerns to my team. Mike?
Yeah, and with that, so we realized we first called Gallup and we're like, okay, disengaged, why are you using this term disengaged? And then they sent back the definitions, and internally is the only place they use disengaged. Our families, community would never see the term engaged, indifferent, disengaged. It was meant for internal conversations around the question that we're going to talk about. So then we rephrased it from, let's not use disengaged when we're talking about it because it has a negative connotation. Let's use families that need more love. Because that's really what we're talking about, is families that need some more love. And if we can figure that out, then we can help move them to the next step. So that's kind of a teaching point that we wanted to have around this problem of practice, is really when we're talking to other teachers and principals when we're rolling this out, they're going to see the terms disengaged. And we don't want them to go at it with a negative connotation of those disengaged parents. No, those parents that need more love.
So the original plan that we came up with was, you see in the first paragraph that Tamara talked about the Gallup survey, and we decided to concentrate on the first question in the Gallup survey, which was, my child's school always delivers on what it promises. And by focusing on this, the hope was to really look into why we were recording such a decrease in family engagement. But when our team first came together to consider our problem of practice, we realized that even our group needed a healthy conversation in order to process the problem, come to some kind of consensus on the best way to focus on a strategy for including those parents, how to hear their voices, how to gather the data, and how to move towards a solution. And it was through the wrestling of this problem of practice, how it looks and feels at a particular school site, we realized that that in itself became an important step in the process of actually addressing the problem. And we learned that this conversation and sharing of perspectives was most definitely something to be considered and valued as we were moving forward to include more school sites.
So basically, these are the bullets you see there, some the steps that we went through when we were thinking about planning out this strategy, what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. So we wanted to start with some focus groups with parents. So we scheduled, there was parent groups. And again, Anza will get into this a little bit more specifically because it was their school, but they scheduled small focus groups with a small number of parents that was attended by the principal, the community liaison, and the counselor. We created a sample script. So the script was kind of just a guide to help them with the conversation, get the conversation started, activity in the beginning to get parents kind of thinking in the direction of what it means to be a promise to be delivered upon. And then during the meeting, they would collect the information. And so that way afterwards, we could actually follow up on any specific parent concerns. Like if a parent brought something up that was very specific, rather than waiting until after all this is done, let's go on and address it now. And so we looked at any of those kind of things. We also collected the data, the demographics for the parents and any of the information, collect all the information so we really could get to what are the root causes, because we went in thinking these were the causes, but then as we listened to parents, we discovered something different. And so the last part of that, after the meeting, is us just kind of coming together again and really evaluating that data, analyzing it, looking through it, and then starting to make some recommendations for change.
So this graphic should look very familiar. John Adams, prior to our breakout sessions, provided a quick 15, 20-minute slide presentation on this concept of, and so I would like to encourage our facilitators, Mars and the rest of you, to have John do that presentation again next year for a longer duration, because as Anza moved into the process and planning, one of the most powerful slides that resonated with me during our January meeting when John Adams presented was the current reality. And as a school site administrator, principal here at Anza, of course, I have a current reality based on my experiences and my observations and what I think I know. However, it was really important to me that the current reality of our parents would be and could be shared. So we have a vision that all of our parents are engaged. I would love to have 100% of our parents engaged, where they know that they trust their school and they see the progress within their students' learning. And also when they're out at the baseball field or at a family gathering, they're talking up the school, saying how wonderful it is. So to me, that's full engagement. And there's a gap. So when we think about the parent reality, it was really important for us to clearly hear the parent voice and understand what their reality truly was. So again, second slide from John's presentation about our practice and the actions that we would take. And our aim was to gather information so that we could have a common ground and a common current reality whereby the school would understand. And taking it back to that question of promises, that was a wonderful question to ask our parents. And when you allow yourselves to be vulnerable, you can really glean and gather information that is powerful in change. So I would, at some point, encourage everyone, every administrator, to allow themselves to be vulnerable to what the parent has to say and just listen. So as we went into the parent meetings, our two, our school counselor and our parent liaison, Brooke and Doa, the decision was that they take the lead, and I, as the administrator, would just kind of be in the background because it was really important for me not to interject. And that's so hard as a school administrator, because when we hear information from our parents, many of us want to go right to a solution-based action. And so I had to listen, be quiet, take it all in, and it was very, very powerful. So John, I know he's probably not in this specific group, but I would like to commend you on your work around this topic, and also the whole Bruce Lee quote about adding and rejecting and making it your own. That was all part of our process, and what an amazing team we have. So this slide is going to get into the nuts and bolts and details of our project here with meeting our parents. And so for ANZA, the Gallup poll from May 2020 was that we had a 48% engagement in different 41. Indifferent means that they're okay, but they're not talking your school up. And actively disengaged is a parent that's really frustrated and negative and might even be saying bad things about your school. So this data was important. However, I had a side goal in that this data is only based on 49 out of 500 parents responding. So my little side goal was to try to increase that number this year in May 2021 to at least more than 59 and even over 100. So we're currently in that process of gathering our Gallup survey from our parent. And so we're working hard to have as many participate in that survey as possible. And so now I'd love to turn it over to Brooke and Doa, who will continue to share the information specific to our parent meetings and how that rolled out.
Thank you, Ms. Cajon. All right, so for our focus group, we as Cajon Valley team had some meetings, and we discussed who will be our focus group and who are the families we're meeting with. And we decided to meet with some parents who we kind of know, who are involved in school affairs, where we feel comfortable to meet with and discuss this question and ask this question. And then we had other meetings. We had more meetings with some parents who we don't really know and get to know more. The main question was, of course, does my child's school always delivers on what it promises? We contacted those parents via phone calls, emails. We had already 5 meetings on Zoom. Each meeting had 2 to 5 parents, and those meetings were based on language. Interpretation was provided as needed. Due to the reality of COVID, we included distance and in-person learning parents, both models, and different grades from TK through 5th grade. Those meetings were held either during school hours or after school hours. Based on the parents' schedule, we tried to accommodate as much as possible. And we had the script to guide us through the meetings as a reference. And also we invited families from diverse cultural and ethnic backgrounds, as well as we started with 35 parents, and we already met with about 20 of them. We will continue our meetings.
And as we were navigating this pilot program, we really wanted to be intentional about every step. We were trying to process about, how could we eventually be able to expand this to other sites and to do it in a way that maintains the integrity of the work we've been doing with CEI. Because it's kind of a simple concept, right? Bringing people together, having a conversation, it's not really happening everywhere. And so the concept can even make people a little nervous. So every time we were talking through it, we were really, really intentional about how we could do it at ANZA and then how we could expand it. And I feel like the biggest takeaway from being the pilot school is just like what Maria was saying, is how important it is to set that precedent that we are there to just listen. That is the foundation of it all. We're not there to problem solve, correct ideas. We're just there to listen and to create a safe space where families can really feel like they can authentically express their opinions and be heard and share their current reality. And at ANZA, having our principal and our community liaison and our counselor lead those conversations made sense. Maria has developed amazing relationships with our families and has an open door policy. And Doa has been such a fantastic resource to so many families and has helped me as a school counselor in turn connect with families who may be a little bit more hesitant or may not understand my role. But every school is different. So when we're thinking about how to expand that, that's also going to lead to some vulnerable conversations about who really is it at your site who can create that safe space that's going to allow families to be vulnerable, reflective, and that you are just the space where everybody can come in and truly, truly share their opinions about this question. And the goal as we continue at ANZA and to expand to our schools is just to listen, and then follow up. Which brings us to our next slide, where we kind of used that fishbone. So really, really quick before I throw it back to Doa and she kind of walks through all the amazing things we learned. That bottom half is kind of our takeaways when we did the fishbone Jamboard in January at our CEI meeting. And it was when we met and we were talking about kind of maybe what we thought were some of those barriers. And then the ANZA team filtered through those one more time to say, okay, from all of this, that was more district-wide thoughts, what do we think connected to ANZA? And really related most to our school site, our current reality. Main themes, self-explanatory, you can see them right there. But really quick, the communication gaps, whether it was just a general lack of maybe trust in the school system, or how teachers and families connect, access, whether it's technology or parent time and availability, and then parent engagement. Why is it important? How do I even start that? And then we do have some families that will say to us, school is the expert, you go for it. And upon reflecting, that made us feel maybe they weren't feeling empowered to advocate. But those are our assumptions. So it was really humbling and wonderful to just sit and listen. And Doa is going to tell us what we heard.
Thank you, Brooke. And moving to parents' reality, which is the top part, what we discovered when we piloted the program at ANZA and contacting the parents, we found that the most common themes were communication, instructional programs, and parent engagement, and all the opinions, thoughts, ideas falls under these three themes. The biggest one was the communication, and I would start with logistics, where it was more of day-to-day ideas and safety that have been brought up in years past, as such as safety through the school meetings that we had in the school. Some positive comments we got, it was about COVID. I just wanted to mention that, and really how our district and our school took care of the COVID protocols and all the procedures that were in place. And the parents did see that. So that was something positive. And then parent-teacher disconnects, that was the second one. And it was really something that brought up to our attention. And it's so this is where the two-way communication, that is where you don't have a meeting of mind. Some parents who are connected to school feel that they do not get enough communication with teachers. Also, IEP parents who their kids have IEP, one meeting in a school year is not enough to them. They want to hear more. And then with methodology, it was more of like the tools used to communicate. Some parents prefer, phone calls or text message, emails, and different ways of communication. The second one was the instructional programs, and the first category was the too few programs we have at the school. So parents want to see more academic program, more tutoring programs to support their children who are low academically. And they also shared how they want some fun clubs, fun activities to have at school. So capacity and tool was more of, we don't know how to support our children. What are the tools that we can use to help our kids improve in their school? And the last one was the parent engagement, and the why was the biggest one that stand for me, the why behind parent involvement. So some parents share with us how it's important that when we ask parents to be involved or engaged, why that is important, why they need to be involved in the school, in their child's education. And the lack of opportunity where the times that we have the programs or the workshops, the parent classes, we should have more opportunities after school, weekend, and what are other opportunities that are available.
Again, we allowed ANZA, not allowed, but this is what we do. When we gave the problem of practice, this was our idea of how it should be run. We gave it to ANZA and let them make it what they did before you and get that information to be able to drive themselves. So our goal really quickly, because I know we're out of time, is just simply to expand this to all other sites, look at the problem of practice, personalize the instruction, and allow them to personalize their implementation. So ultimately we can review this data and move it forward, and make some decisions that ultimately ensures that parents can answer yes to that question, that we as a school deliver on promises. Christine, I know you were going to jump in here with something at the very end, but I do think we're out of time. Do you want to just add one point really quick?
Yes, that the San Diego County Office of Education is in alignment with this important work. And one way to support it is with the equity blueprint for action, which will be very, very soon be released. And family and community voice is a very important component in this initiative. And I wanted to share this with all of you because in the next few days, you will have it available. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if we have time for Q&A, but we can go for it. Any questions out there?
I had one quick question. Sorry.
Yeah, you're up.
What went into the exam? Sorry, let me take a look at my notes real quick. The example meeting script. What went into that?
We can send it to you. Sandra and Janice really worked hard on that. And the whole point behind that was getting the parents to understand, what does it mean to deliver on promises? And the tact that they took was like, when you go to Vons or you go to, your burger's going to be warm at McDonald's, you're delivering on a promise. Or when you go to or you go to wherever, a store of some kind, they deliver on promises. We as a school want to deliver on promises, and we would give them lots of different, phrases and Starbucks type things that we want to be like a Starbucks and deliver hot coffee, warm, smart kids, engaged families, equitable, that kind of thing.
Basically, we talked about direct promises and indirect promises and what the difference is, what that looks like, just to give them food for thought so that as they approach that question, they were not just thinking about a direct promise like, I promise to send this piece of paper home and it didn't get there, but more indirect promises on the education of their kids or the safety of their kids or something like that. So that's what the focus of our script was.
And I will say, as a school district, the last couple of years, the board and the superintendent, we talk often about our families being our clients. And I think that in education, we just think our clients come walking in our door, and that is certainly not the way we should be handling them. So we talk often about that.
And then I'll throw that link in the chat of the document that we had. And once we go back to the other group, and feel free to do whatever you want with it.
I think everybody has access to the presentation. So if you pull up our presentation, you will be able to, within our presentation, there's a link, so you'll be able to pull it up and read it.
Thanks, Sandra.
And then at the school site, we made it a little different because of our community. So we took the script and we talked about direct and indirect promises, but we kind of teased it out to the examples would be more community relevant. And so Doa and Brooke and I, came up with those examples because you have to teach that vocabulary, you have to teach that concept in order to get the information from the parent. And initially it starts with a lot of problems, but we had to keep focusing. They kept focusing back to promises. Just think about what the direct or indirect concept could be. And as you go through those meetings, they became so refined in the process that we were able to get a lot of great information.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate the wonderful presentation, all the thought that went into the work